Okay, parents, we're going to jump into lesson 10.5 for math today. And remember, we are still making parts. Today we're using numbers 14, 15, and 16. So if you have any objects that your kiddo can physically count with today, again, this is for that solve and share problem. We normally do it with objects. So if they can put, I don't care, noodles or beans or something that they can, pennies, anything that could actually go into these little 10 frames, they could solve this problem with a physical manipulative is what we call that. So the problem today says 14 students go to the zoo. The first bus takes 10 students. The rest of the students go on a second bus. Use counters to describe the situation, then complete the equation to match the counters. So remember, you want your kiddo using language like part, whole. So because we have the whole, we need to find the two missing parts today. So they're going to be breaking 14 into two parts. You can tell them to do that, like I said, with some objects in here. They should be using the language of 10 frame. They should not have to count each individual box. Some students are still there, and that's okay if they do, but we should know now that a full 10 frame equals 10, and then 4 more makes 14, and again 10 and 4 makes 14. So that's what you're going to want your kiddos to do on this page. And when we go into the guided practice, it's going to be more of that, just making 15 and 16 as well. So again, remember these boxes up here in the green show a visual representation or a picture representation of these problems, and it's just more examples. So in this problem, there are some red and yellow counters. They take the red counters and they fill 10 into that red bus. They take the yellow counters and they put 6 into this bus. And again, there's a video that goes along with this. I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to post that for you guys. So that's what this problem is like, goes to a video that the kids kind of get to watch. And then it asks them to use those counters to figure out the parts. So again, making 16, we can break it into two parts, 10 and 6. 10 ones, 6 ones. So down here, they're going to be doing the exact same thing. So remember, your kiddo can do this digitally. They can use tools to draw in here. Okay, they can also use the digital stamps. If they want to use those, they can pop them right in. They're just clicking when they use these. It's not complicated at all this way. Try to get them to use two colors if they are using the stamps or they're writing these in. I'm not really picky in class when we do two colors. I don't care if it's red or yellow or if it's blue or green. But sometimes it does help them to keep that consistency. Okay, so in this problem, they are breaking up 15. They do that by using 10 in a full 10 frame of 10 and a 10 frame only filled with 5. So again, the parts are 10 and 5, and that makes 15. Make sure they read the problem to you. 15 equals 10 plus 5. Okay, and then going into the next guided practice, remember you're doing guided practice with them. So this is something you're watching them do. You're making sure they're doing it right. You can really help and support them there. You can ask them lots of questions. You can prompt them on these problems. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're making 14 here. So again, I'm going to use my counters. I'm going to draw 14 in. Remember, some kids are going to be counting these because that's where their brain is at developmentally. They need to count each individual one. Some kids will not. They'll draw these in and they'll say, I know that's 10. Either way is fine still. Okay, and if they're using, again, the digital counters, now that they've filled in 10, that's one part. Sometimes I'll even have them write that first. What's our first part? 10. How do I make a 10? A 1 and a 0. Make sure they're identifying this number. What's this number called? It's 14. How do you make a 14? A 1 and a 4. We have little rhymes for our numbers. We say number 1 is like a stick, a straight line that is very quick. Okay, we have a whole bunch of rhymes for all of these. And then we're going to finish up with that second part. So I have 10. How many more do I need to get to 14? You can ask them those kinds of questions. So I need, let's count 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, how many yellow counters do I have now? Some students, again, will just be able to look at, we call that subitizing, when they can look at a set of objects and know exactly how much it is. And some students will not be able to do that. They'll need to count each individual one. Again, it's just developmental, and it depends where they're at. So some will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they will need to write that 4 in there. And they don't have to use it with yellow. Obviously, it's tough to see. Okay, so you're going to continue to do that with 16. Again, what number is this? It's 16. How do I make a 16? A 1 and a 6. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can break 16 into two parts. What two parts can make 16? I'm going to get my counters again. We're going to have kiddos count all the way to 10 to fill this 10 frame, or like I said, they will just know and they will fill it up. How many counters did we just put in that 10 frame? Students should know that's 10 because it's a full 10 frame. How do I make a 10, a 1, and a 0? Okay. And then we're going to say, okay, how many more do we need to get to 16? Okay, so then they're going to again say, well, this is 10. I need to keep counting. I need to count on, is what we say, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, and then they're going to go ahead and write in, count those. Some kids will know that 5 and 1 make 6. Some kids will need to count these individually. Either way is fine. Do we want them to get to being able to see that 5 and 1 make 6? Absolutely. But these are 5 and 6-year-old brains, and developmentally they just might not be ready for that. So 5 and 1 make 6.
Are you almost done doing here, Mom?
Okay, and then I've got my last one right here. What number are we making? 15. Now in this problem, they give us the 2 parts. So you can ask the student to read this sentence. 15, this addition sentence says 15 equals 10 plus 5. So what's our first part that we need to draw here? The kiddo should be able to say that's 10. So how many stamps or counters do we need to add in here? We need to add 10. So again, we're going to add those in, and I'm going through this quickly because I'm hoping you understand and see that process. Okay, we got our first part, 10. What's the next part that we need to make 15? 10 and 5. Now we need to add 5 more counters. So once you guys get through this guided practice, again, remember to have them read each math sentence. Make sure they're identifying these numbers. That's an important part of kindergarten, so they should know that this is 14, 16, and 15. Okay, and then you're going to move into independent practice. And remember, with independent practice, this is where you're watching them. You're welcome to read the problem to them, but we don't want to cue them too much anymore if they're having a hard time with that. Just make sure that you're asking the right kinds of questions, like, what's this number? Read this math sentence to me, or read this adding sentence to me. What 2 parts do you see? You can ask questions like that. And how would you show me this part? Where would you put it? How would you draw it with counters? You can ask all those kinds of questions to them. Just try not to give them the answers outright. And then on this bottom problem right here, after they've made 16 and 14 with counters here on number 7, these are those higher order thinking questions, so they're normally a little bit harder. It says, have students use counters to show 16, draw them in a double 10 frame. Here's our double 10 frames, and complete 2 equations to match the picture. So with this sentence, they're doing the whole here first, so 16 should be here, and they're putting the missing parts here. So really make sure that they understand where the whole goes and where the missing parts go. They need to pay attention to the equal sign and the plus sign. And then on this one down here, they've written it backwards, so we've got the 2 parts and the whole. So when we figure this out, we would say whole, part, part, whole. Okay, and they don't have to change they don't have to show commutative property here. They actually just want to rewrite it so that this math sentence is written forwards this way in your more typical standard setting. Okay, so I hope that helps. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If your kiddo wants to do the extra practice on the homework, you can always let them do that for more practice. All right, let me know if you have questions.